have a very beautiful guest with us, Dr. Zareen. Dr. Zareen Hussain, the most diversified and pioneer healthcare professional, entrepreneur, and philanthropist in Bangladesh, with significant accomplishment in all arena where she stepped in. Dr. Zareen is the founder, director, and CEO of Integro Pharma Limited, which constitutes of a manufacturing plant in Oman. Over the last decade, Dr. Zareen has become an influential voice in the country for establishing women empowerment, gender violence, and stop child marriage. Dr. Zareen is a committed Zontian and also the charter president of Zonta Club of Greater Dhaka. She is a popular media personality who is anchoring various health related shows in most of the television channels. Dr. Zareen has a clear mindset and keen eyes to expand her pharma industry in Arab Peninsula, Europe, and US through either acquisition, merger, or technology transfer. As keynote, Dr. Zareen has participated many pharma conferences and scientific congress. We are very pleased to welcome Dr. Zareen on our platform. Dr.
Thank you very much.
Our first question to you is, please explain what is artificial intelligence?
Okay, before I even explain what is artificial intelligence, good evening to all these brilliant speakers who have been listening. And my topic is slightly different than COVID. So you have asked me, and I also want to know, hope all your near and dear ones are fine out of not suffering from COVID-19. And I hope we can see better future. Answering to your question, artificial intelligence, if I were to say in a lay word for the general audience, is just making a machine intelligent through science and engineering. So what is that it includes? It includes putting some mathematical logic, some statistics, some probabilities, and some computational neurobiology, and all this put in one computer. You're actually mimicking human brain. So that is artificial intelligence. Now, if I were to say, all of us here are in this era of artificial intelligence. The webinar that we are doing is also part of artificial intelligence. Maybe next time, 5 years down the lane, maybe we will have another robot attending the session. Or maybe we won't have to use any laptop, or just, put the goggles and we will have this virtual webinar. So that's how I look at artificial intelligence. So to begin with, you know about Apple Siri, where you have a robot. You say, oh, I'm depressed. Please tell me a joke, or what time is it, or switch off my light, switch on my light. Then we have image and face recording that also falls in artificial intelligence. Like the husband cannot touch the wife's mobile until it's locked because the face has been recorded. So what happened? Once the wife was sleeping and the husband wanted to open the wife's mobile, he took the wife's mobile and put it in front of the wife's face while she's sleeping. But the mobile wouldn't open because why? Because it did not identify the lady with open eyes. So there you go. So basically it's feeding data, it's taking data. Now there are self-driven cars, like to find the most convenient pathway where there is no traffic, and also telling you through Google Map how long it will be, how long we should wait, where there's a congestion, and all these things. And another thing is, which I can give you an example, is newspaper. We have all heard about New York Times and China Daily. So the hard copies are for general public. But if I were to see them online, say I have an affinity to see science fiction or news that's coming up on science. So that newspaper online will see my trend and take the data. And every time I will open the newspaper online, I will see what is happening in the world about science. If I'm addicted to fashion, it will only show that. as in the front paper. So that is how artificial intelligence is working. Now, if the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, what are they doing? They're taking all our data. Our data are all given out. So we might have 1,000 friends in the Facebook, but in the newsfeed we see 10 or 4 people, or maybe 15, because we are kind of, detecting, seeing them. We are interested to know about them. So the information has been fed that she likes to see the status of those 5 persons. And if I like to buy something, I'll keep on seeing what I need to buy in Facebook or Instagram. And the sponsors will put it and see that this lady likes to see jewelry or bags or books. So accordingly, all our data is given to artificial. All this data are being analyzed, processed, and they are given. They are printed. They are printed and then they're fed it to the machine. So that is artificial intelligence. Now, if I were to talk about the background. It is not a new concept. It has been there. In 1927, there was a science fiction movie where this Metropolis, a pageant girl was there, and from there it started. Then in 1940, I will divide it into 3 segments. In 1940 to 1960, there was a generation of scientists, philosophers, mathematicians. Then there was this young British polymath. His name is Turing. So what he did, he thought if human brain can sort of take so many information, what happens if we are in a problem? We see the problem, we try to analyze, we do our own judgment, and then we give a decision and we come to a solution. So he thought machine could do that. But at those times, his policy did not get through because of lack of computer. Because at those times, computers were very high priced and they were so big, like size of a room, and then only top universities could afford them. So it did not. So in 1956, the word artificial intelligence was coined by the author, Minsky McCarthy. He was the one who presented the paper. But unfortunately, in that conference, there were only 6 attendants and 2 speakers. So it also did not gain any popularity or any speed of booming. Now, 1980 to 1990, well, the first Robot 2 was produced by Waseda University in Japan, the robot who could play the organ. And then there was, in 1986, the Mercedes-Benz in Germany, in Munich. They produced a car with sensors and built-in cameras and things like that. But in 1997 marks the real outbreak of artificial intelligence, when we all know the grandmaster in chess was none other than Garry Kasparov. He was beaten by a computer, by IBM Deep Blue. So that was the first revolution. But he took it very positively. He said, out of 5 games, he lost 4 and he won 1. So he told to everybody that, if I had not played with the computer, I probably would not have excelled my thinking process. Now, playing with the computer gave me an edge that I will think even faster. So he took it to a different level by winning 1 and losing 4. And 2010, we see a new bloom based on massive data and new computing power. Google started making a secret car which passed the Nevada test. Then 2009, computer scientists in Northwestern University, they were programming a sport news, which was totally done by artificial intelligence without any human intervention. So all these is nothing. We are in the midst of artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zareen. My second question to you is, what is the implication of artificial intelligence in the medical science and pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I would like to say that in the pharma industry, it will be like a faster and cheaper. I'm sure all the pharmacists, it takes 10, 12 years to come out with a vaccine and drug. So all these will be shortened in time framework, because the vaccine we are working now on, all the countries, the 100 companies that are working with the COVID-19 vaccine, you have to first identify the genotype of the virus, which was done in a day in China, and then so they are hastening it up, and because of artificial intelligence, the production, the pace is running fast. That's why the scientists are saying that it will take 12 to 18 months to come up with a vaccine. Then there will be like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So they are doing it in very little amount of individuals, where they're doing phase 1, then probably phase 2. Gilead has done the phase 2 thing, and now Atomwise, if I recall, Atomwise has probably is together with the University of Toronto and IBM during Ebola pandemic. It sort of took out the medication in less than a day through artificial intelligence. So that is the impact. And a time will come when there will be no animal testing. We don't have to go for animal testing. Everything will be done by mathematical algorithms. And silicos, we will have silico bodies. We don't need to do human trials. You can go on silicos and do the trials, and everything will be hastened, and you can take out a drug within a month or a vaccine within 2 to 3 months, or things like that. And then I'm talking about the early detection and disease, like now the point of care is the hospital, right? When we are sick, we go to the hospital, to the doctor. The point of care will be your home. You will have a stethoscope, digital stethoscope. You will have, which can record your heartbeat, your lung sound, then your ECG. Then you will have EEG machines. Then you will have smart toilets where their sensor will be fixed, where all what you urinate will be analyzed and saved in the cloud. And then a mirror, when you get up in the morning, the mirror will say your daily schedule, and then also record tell you your pressure, your pulse, then your CO2 elimination as you breathe, then also whether you're stressed or not. It will also record. It will also say that. So these are the impacts that will have through artificial intelligence. And also, I would say a tattoo. Why go there? Maybe you will have a small tattoo which will have a sensor and record all your molecular structure, your genome, and then your metabolism. Because every individual has a different metabolic rate. They have different molecular structure. So everything will be recorded. You will have a data, your sensor will be, all of this data will be saved in the cloud, and it will be saved and it will go to your GP. And if there is any problem, he will get an alarm. He will say, oh, Zareen, I think you've got to be careful with your sugar. Stop taking sugar, and I have to be careful. So all these are there. And then again, I would like to talk about the supply chain. In the supply chain, well, the first thing is counterfeit drug, serialization of the drug. You can stop that, because once you've serialized, you can sort of see that no counterfeit drug are taken. I will tell you a story, because during this COVID-19, when it started, I was in Turkey, and obviously I got stuck. I went for a day, and then I was supposed to come back the next day. But it happened, I had to take diazepam because I was stressed. And I usually take 5 milligram. It didn't work. 10 milligram, 20, 30, 40 milligram. It did not work. So I took out a strip and just crushed the tablet. To me, it looked like talcum powder. So in the age of COVID, so all these drugs are making place because of the scarcity. So all that will be gone. Now, if the drug, now another thing is, if you take a drug, and after swallowing, whether you've taken it, there'll be a sense attached to a drug, and it will see you're swallowing it, you're digesting it, you're metabolizing it, and it's whether it is going to the right side or not. So in 2016, 2015, FDA approved the first drug product which is combined with a digestive sensor to see whether it's being digested. So like a mental patient, he doesn't know whether he's supposed to have drug. Maybe next time in his next visit to the doctor, he will go and say, yes, I've taken the drug. But the record will say, no, he has not taken the drug at all. So then it will be easy for the doctor to sort of adjust the dose and increase the dose or decrease the dose. And we will be having customized drugs, like 3D drugs. Like say I'm hypertensive and I need, say, amlodipine 5. We manufacture amlodipine 5, amlodipine 10, but probably I don't need amlodipine 5 or 10. Probably I only need 1.75 milligram. So they will be customized according to my genome, according to my molecular weight, according to my body weight, according to my metabolism. I will get my own customized pill which will take care of my blood pressure. In the house, we have a kitchen, then we have a media room, then probably we'll have a pharmacy room where we can make our own, we'll buy the ingredients and we will make through 3D printers our own pills. And then we're looking at polypills, like I have to take so many pills, vitamins, blood pressure, some energy pills and all that. Maybe I will not like to take all of them. Maybe I will put all of them in one small pill and then have it. So these are the changes that I'm looking with artificial intelligence in the pharma and in the medical world.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Will artificial intelligence replace or reduce the job market of pharmacists or healthcare professional in future?
Well, that is a little bit of tricky, because, as I said, technology is taking over and you don't know what's coming. Unless you prepare yourself for technology, you have to sit on the shoulder of the technology, not the other way around. So, like weak technologies, like people who are weak, like Siri, maybe people who run Siri will not get job. Who are weak, they will lose the job. But then pharmacists like Vikram and all these big speakers of today might get a job in Google to feed the computer with the molecular structure, to do the algorithms. And I won't be surprised if a doctor also joins Google or IBM, or for all these. So there will be a job for higher technology people.
Ma'am, your sound is echo. Please turn off your computer sound. Yeah, ma'am, now I speak.
Okay.
What will be the landscape of future pharma industry according to you? How the future pharma will take like after 10 years or 20 years from now?
20 years of now, if we look with artificial intelligence, pharma industry will concentrate more on prevention and early detection through vaccine, and then through genetic testing, and then early detection of disease. Even, we are treated when the symptoms come up, but maybe we will be treated even before the symptoms flare. So like COVID-19, somebody is carrying it for 14 days, we don't know. And then we're taking it. Maybe there will be a way to find out that this person is carrying this germs within him, and then we'll be able to detect. Then customized medication, as I said earlier, like according to my molecular structure, DNA structure, I will have customized pills. Then curative therapies will be more like not to look after the symptoms, but to destroy the gene at the root level, and all of that. And target cell therapies, huge involvement of AI in fast and cheaper drugs, as I said before, and precision intervention like 3D printing drugs, then nano pills. We already have a nano pill, I think it's called Rani pill, Rani pill, which goes to the pancreas, It's a capsule, opens up and goes to the pancreas and gives insulin. So these are the trend I am looking with artificial intelligence. I think a huge tsunami is coming, and before technology takes us over, we should be on top of technology. We should be really prepared. And it's whatever I said, the stethoscope is a symbol of a doctor. But do you know there is a digital stethoscope so small and it is much cheaper than the analog one? And it not only it detects and records the heart sound and the lung sound, but we have not seen any doctors using it. So we have to do a continuous process of learning and be one step up, boost our technology with our knowledge, so that technologies don't rule us. We are in the driver's seat. So we have to be one up on the technology.
Ma'am, we have been hearing about 3D tablets or robotic pills. What are these things?
The 3D tablets, one 3D tablet is which in 2016 has been approved by USDA. It's called Spretum. It's I think it's been compressed in a fusion method. That is a 3D pill for epilepsy. And robotic pills, which I said is like a nano pill. It's a capsule. It's a Rani pill, and it has you take it and then it goes to the side, opens up, takes a needle, and then pushes the drug to the pancreas. So these are the 3D and nano pills. And I am sort of very optimistic that a lot of more things, a lot of devices and pills, and we will not be stuck to the traditional dosage form. There has to be something more innovative, and it is going fast. It is because there are people who like to know about the DNA structure, and then they like to know about the molecular structure, and they can be a partner with the doctor. Now I don't know anything about myself. If a patient comes to me, I will say your pressure is high. But if I have a sensor in my body, I will know everything about myself. Then doctor and I can partner in making a decision. So that is what I'm looking. So patient, the consumer, everything should involve patient. Even if you're making a hospital, you won't believe in Netherlands, they made a hospital where invited the patient to tell them how to design the hospital, because it is they who are going to use it, not the doctors. Because for the chronic disease, these are the people who will be going to the facilities. So this is what I'm looking at. And I'm looking at India in a big way, because India has Silicon Valley. Why do we have to look at Europe and America? You have the know-how, you know that you have the technique, you have Silicon Valley, and your Google Chief. They're all Indian. You come up, you have everything. We are Bangladeshis. We are trying to, but we are still far behind. But India is more advanced. Why should we even go to Europe? We can see having all these things in India, because you are gifted with Silicon Valley. You have the manpower, you have the know-how, you know the technology, everything, and you can collaborate with us. Take your neighbor with us, with yourself, and then make a hub. And we also have strong pharmaceutical companies where you can do contract manufacturing. So I always, like in my previous webinar, I have been encouraging India, telling that you guys need to run at a fast pace. We will not look at the Western world. India alone is sufficient with Bangladesh.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you very much, Dr. Zareen. You have encouraged us a lot. You have explained a lot about artificial intelligence. I would like to know that what are the implications of artificial intelligence on COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. So interestingly enough, COVID-19 was detected, I think, on 7th of January by CDC in America. That was through artificial intelligence. I think 9th of January, who declared it as a pandemic? But you will be surprised, through this artificial intelligence, the blue, I think it's a blue spot in Canadian artificial intelligence, they detected 7 days before it was declared pandemic. So this 7 days window was a big time for us. Had we known, that a pandemic is coming. It did not only forecasted a pandemic, you know how it did by taking the data of the passengers, then voice and other data, and they sort of also said there is going to be outbreak, and the outbreak is going to follow the path. Which path? It will hit Japan. So it also gave that. So artificial intelligence has already worked and working, and artificial intelligence is also working for the vaccine now. And the virus itself, the SARS-CoV-2, which is causing the COVID-19 disease, it was artificial intelligence who detected the molecule, the structure. The structure was detected by artificial intelligence. Now, we will not call artificial intelligence because people get scared. We'll call it augmented intelligence. This augmented intelligence detected the genotype, the virus. Now, if you know the virus, you are ready to make a weapon. So there is where we go with artificial intelligence in COVID-19. And it had speeded up our the vaccination program. So everybody's saying vaccine is coming in October. How? It's all through artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zareen.